Today I'd like to welcome two speakers. We have Michael Foster and Laura Irwin. Michael has been doing improv for the last decade and is the general manager and education director at the KC Improv Company. Laura Irwin is a teacher and improviser with the KC Improv Company and has been improvising since 2007. Michael Foster actually spent some time with us about a year ago in our second space, so we're really thrilled to have you back and have Laura starting with us today. So please welcome Laura and Michael.
Check, 1, 2, 1, 2. We've got a problem. Check. Laura, cover.
Hi, thank you so much for having us. We are delighted to be here today.
We're very delighted. Can you hear me? Am I on? We'll figure this out.
All right.
That's okay. This is great. This was a test. We asked for a We asked for challenges like this.
Okay. In the meantime, we want to thank Helen and everybody here for listening to us today. This is a delight. We don't normally get to speak to large groups of people. Normally we just make up silly stuff in front of large groups of people. So this is a real change of pace, and we're excited to be here. Michael, how are you doing over there with your mic?
I think I'm doing a lot better.
Hey.
All right. Great.
Great.
Yeah, we don't get to do a lot of public speaking things, and so this is a real treat for us. And thank you guys, and thank you, Helen, for having me back and having Laura here with me. This is great. I have a question I need to ask first. Deadpool was here, right? That wasn't just us. Okay. I just want to clear that up. And during this talk, I think there's going to be several cuss words. We'll also mumble through those.
Yes.
Yeah. We work with the KC Improv Company. We're excited to be here. And improv is an entertainment form. It's an art form, which generally doesn't have a lot of rules. But it does have one golden rule, and that's yes and. And we'll be talking about that today and different aspects of that rule. So what is yes and? Literally, the most basic form is if in improv, in a discussion, you say yes to an idea and you build on it. In a scene, that might be something like just entering as a sailor, as a sea captain, and having your scene partner recognize that idea, saying yes to it, and build onto it. And it's really important in improv.
A lot of times when I'm teaching adult students, it's a little bit harder than teaching kids, which I thought was interesting. Because what happens when you're a kid is you've just come into the world and you're really playful. You play in the dirt, you put on crazy outfits because your mom wants you to, you pee in a Lego bucket in public, like my sister did. You just do weird stuff. And you don't necessarily have that mental check that we learn as we become adults. And, functioning members of society, you can't just pee in a Lego bucket. But as you get older, that actually inhibits your ability to play quite a bit. Because I'll have people who come up and do a scene and they'll say the dreaded words, I don't know what to do, or I don't know what to say. And a lot of times when I talk to people and I say that I do improv, they're like, how? How do you do it? And it's like, well, I do it just like you do it. Like, how many of you guys came in with your script for Oasis today? Like, oh, I'm going to say hi to Michael. I'm going to tell him congratulations. No, we're improvising every day. And so when we learn yes and, what we're really doing is relearning what we always knew when we were kids. So that's kind of my take on yes and.
Yeah, and it's a thing that in improv and using yes and is anything that everybody can do and does do. It's not just comedians. And it's basically just, with improv, you're just freeing yourself up to let ideas come to the top of your brain, being okay with putting those ideas out there, and knowing that everybody is going to yes and those ideas. And that's how it works. We start with an idea, and we yes and it, and we build on that foundation. And it can be a really challenge for people, like maybe adults who are just coming into improv, because we lose that sense of play over time a little bit. At least some of us do. And so it can be hard to go back to that sense of play where basically any idea was okay to put out there, and knowing that you guys are going to find something fun to do with that idea.
I think this might be best shown through an example. So I'm going to come up to Carolyn. Do you mind if I put you on the spot? Carolyn, can you just tell me anything that you believe or don't believe, and you don't have to tell me which one it is?
Meditation.
A little bit more. Leave me like a sentence.
Meditation will cure all your problems.
No, you're stupid! That's no, but. Yes, and would be, yes, I love it. Actually, I just did it last Christmas with my mom, and it was a wonderful experience. So I'm adding on, I'm saying yes, whereas if you say no, you're telling them their idea is stupid. Here, I have a better idea than yours, you dumb, dumb person. Which is what we try to fight against with yes and. That's how it works. Does that make a little bit more sense? I could do about 1,000 more of those. They're really easy, but... So yeah, that's what yes and. And then yes and in improv. How many of you guys have ever seen improv before or taken a class or done?
Ooh,
oh my
a lot of
gosh!
hands. Oh, that's awesome.
So you guys know this. How many of you guys have taken classes out of those? So this is like way review, shut up, move on.
In improv, it's super important because you have to have that agreement on stage. Because from that agreement, there's trust. There's that collaboration in knowing that if you put an idea out there, it's going to be yes-anded. There's going to be agreement because then if you're not doing that, if you're saying no to an idea, that's denial. And denial leads to confusion, especially with the audience. It leads to distrust. And it's like, I thought we were on the same page here. And that's why agreement's so important, because the comedy doesn't come from us trying to go for a joke. And true yes and comes from just saying yes and building onto it. And then you'll find something interesting. You'll find something funny in that agreement.
Some of my worst scenes or improv games have been right after I had the thought, this is going to be so funny, what I'm about to say. Because usually when that happens, I'm not really listening so much. Improv is mostly about listening. That's what makes it so easy. Because all you have to do is listen to what just happened. Like, okay, I'm in a scene with a pregnant woman, she's giving birth on a train. Whereas if I don't listen to that and I say no, I'm going to have a weird idea and I'm going to come out with this crazy thing that doesn't make sense. Or I could just say yes. Yes, you're giving birth on a train, and I'm going to help deliver it. Oh, God, I'm 16, something like that. And then we have a scene working, and there's something to go off of.
Yeah, absolutely. And you got to, and it's all about just setting a foundation, having that agreement, and building onto it. And what's nice about that is knowing, and that's where like there's a freedom and that childlike play comes back, because knowing that I can put an idea out there, and it's going to be agreed upon. And other fellow players know that they are going to put an idea out there, and they're going to trust I'm going to add on to that as well. And so there's very little. So people, they will say, "How do you do it?" Well, there's honestly for us, we've had a lot of years. There's not a lot of fear. There's not a lot of pressure because we have a team. We have an ensemble, and that's what's important about it. It's collaborative.
Absolutely. So why is yes and necessary in life and in improv? So I'm not sure if you guys have coworkers or friends or family, and they're kind of no people, you know what I mean? Where you ask them to do something, they're like, oh, no, I can't, I'm busy. Or, oh, hey, I have an idea for you. What do you think about this, boss? And they're like, oh, no, that sucks. You're demoted, or whatever, something like that. We've all met those people. We don't really like those people. And what I've learned through improv in my career as well as my personal relationships is if you say yes, you're validating people. It's weird, and they really like it. It makes that little warm, fuzzy place in their stomach feel really warm and extra fuzzy. Because like, let's say I'll be hanging out with my boyfriend and he'll be washing dishes and he'll say, hey, Laura, can you help me with this? I'll say, yeah, you know what? And I'm gonna clean the counters. He loves that. He really does. Or I could say, you know what? I'm busy, I'm not gonna do that, bye. And then my relationship's suffering a little bit. So it's not just improv, it's also life. But in improv especially, and I think you would agree with that, improv, it's the number one rule.
It is. And I really like that idea, that validation. It's a really positive thing, improv and yes and that can be applied in your daily lives. Find a reason to say yes. And you won't be able to say yes to everything, right? That's, if someone said, hey, here's the smoothie, and I put some Ebola in it, you're not going to say, yes, I'm going to drink that, and I'm going to enjoy it, and that kind of thing. But it's a great tool for generating ideas, and a lot of times maybe there's a good idea that comes from that really weird idea, or maybe that idea that you would initially judge as bad. There's some aspect that you can yes and it will lead to a better idea.
A lot of times, students will come out with a really sexy character, a really forward character who's gross. And it actually happens every class. Someone will come up as a gross old woman and be like, hey, come lick my elbows. And they'll do that because it's funny, and I get it. But then their scene partner's like, no, I'm not going to do it. A very adult answer, a very functioning member of society answer, but not necessarily the most fun improv answer. I'd like to see a scene where the person's like, okay, I'll lick your elbows and I'll lick your toes. Now we're going somewhere. We're going places, right? We have a scene. I'll watch that for 45 minutes.
Yeah, and if you say no, it just stops anything from happening in its tracks, right? You have to say yes, and then you're building, you're finding a path, you're going somewhere, and it's going to lead to an amazing idea, just because that's what the agreement's going to do. And every once in a while in a scene, a character will say no, but that's not necessarily denial. Because yes and is saying yes to an idea. So if somebody, because a lot of times you'll have like a crazy character and you have like a normal character, right? Like an Abbott and Costello kind of dynamic, right? And so then it's okay for that, like what we call the straight character, to be like, no, this is not okay, because they're kind of a fill-in for the audience. So there is a little bit of difference in just letting you know, for some of you who've seen improv shows, or you're going to see an improv show, if a character says no on stage, that's not denying an idea. But if someone comes in like a sea captain, right? Look, I'm going hunting the gray whale. And someone comes in, can you please leave the Starbucks? That is really shutting it down. Well, I think it'd be a lot more interesting if we say yes to that idea. We're on this ship, and we're going to be a crewmate, and yes, we're going to get this whale, kind of thing. Kind of makes sense? I'm rambling. Laura.
No, that gets a little bit confusing with improv, because you can say yes to the reality, but no to the idea. So if somebody comes in with a bad idea, maybe it makes you uncomfortable or something. Hey, I want you to jump in this black hole and die. You're not necessarily going to say, okay, and I'm going to do it with a smile and jump into the black hole. That doesn't make a ton of sense. I guess it could. I'm confusing myself. Basically, so here's a way you can do that. The reality is we have 3 kids, we're married, and we're having marital issues, right? This is a scene we can relate to. I tell my husband, that's what I call you. I feel bad about what's been happening lately, and I don't know how I feel about the kids we have. And he says, what? We don't have any children. And the audience laughs because, I'm ridiculous. But now we have nowhere to go, because I'm crazy mom who thinks we have children, and he's a jerk because he denied my idea. Now I don't feel validated, and I feel bad about myself. And what you can do in that situation is say, I disagree with you, but I recognize that we have 3 children. Does that make sense? Not too convoluted? You guys got it. You've taken improv classes. This is all review.
And these ideas are applicable, of course, in improv. I think they could be applicable in everyday life. They could be applicable to like in your professional setting as well. I think yes and improv is great for idea generation, like a writer's room, like a pitch meeting kind of thing, right? And because a lot of the times I think we're looking for ways to shut down ideas. Right, we're looking for like playing devil's advocate, that kind of thing, where that doesn't really get us anywhere. If we say yes, we're going to lead to a really interesting idea, and we're validating people, and we're exploring new things. Because we could spend forever negating things, but that doesn't really progress us anywhere.
Absolutely. And all aspects of life, you can apply it to work. When you're talking with your boss and he gives you an idea, even if it's not your favorite idea, it's his idea, and you can validate him or her, right? You can say, okay, yeah, and maybe we can add spreadsheets to it, or whatever you do in your particular job. Spreadsheets, I'm assuming, by look of you guys. Or let's say you're out on a late night, it's Friday, you're in Westport, your friend says, hey, do you want to go down to Zippy's? And you don't know what that is, and you're tired. You can say, no, not going to do that, sorry about your idea. Or you can say yes and open that Pandora's box. The point is, it's a lot more fun and interesting in life and work, in improv, to go ahead and say, yeah, I'm going to go down the rabbit hole. At least it's a little bit more interesting than what I'm doing now, because I already know what now is. I'm good. I'm comfortable with it. To take the next step, we have to say yes, and then we have to add to it, because the best stories are not the ones that are added by our partner or just by ourselves. They're the ones that we build together. Am I right, guys? It's a teamwork thing. Oh, thank you. Go ahead, Foster.
And in a professional work setting, and one thing that I like about improv is that there's like no hierarchy. Every single idea is valid and is equal, and I think that's really great. And I think it's honestly, for a lot of people, it can be a tough thing, and it's honestly a habit that you have to learn and you have to practice. And I would challenge you guys to try and do that, to try and be a yes person and see where it leads you.
I think the best example of that was probably Michael. Is he our number 1 volunteer, Michael, today? He says yes. Look how happy he is. There we go. And yeah, I think that just kind of brings the point home. Just saying yes and getting involved and being a great improviser, it all kind of ties together. They're one and the same.
Yeah, and taking that yes and having with a group of people saying yes, whether it's your family or people at work, that just kind of can lead to a better team, a better kind of cohesion. Where I've heard it put before, where if an idea is put out there and someone immediately shuts it down, it's kind of like pooping in the pool. In that everybody wants to swim in this pool. Hey, it's great outside. Let's go swim in this pool. But you don't want to be nervous that there's poop in the pool. You want to know that it's okay. I can put this idea out there. I can jump in, and I don't have to worry about that, right? Because when you're in an environment where you're afraid to put out ideas, you can't progress. You can't build on others' ideas, and there's a fear that what you're going to put out there is not okay, right? And in improv, I like to say there's no mistakes. There's only opportunities.
Absolutely. All right.
Absolutely. Yes.
Well, I just agree with that, and I think your shirt looks nice.
Oh, thank you very much. Let's see. So we talked about how it could, I don't know, it might be Q&A time. What do you think?
Yeah, I think that sounds good.
How are we doing?
Okay.
Okay.
If you guys have any questions about KCIC or improv, all right. Plug our shows? You are the nicest woman.
Thank
Foster?
you. Yeah, so we perform, we being the KC Improv Company, we perform at the KIT Comedy Theater in Westport every Friday and Saturday night. You can actually see Laura and I at our 16th anniversary show this upcoming Saturday. It's going to be a lot of fun. She's going to perform with her group, Four Corners. I'll be there with KC Improv. We're going to give out awards. It's going to be a really fun time. So you might come check that out. A lot of you have already taken classes, and we do classes as well. So if improv is something you want to check out, please do, kcimprov.com.
Yeah.
Cool. What other questions do you have? How much are the classes? Saturdays we do like a no commitment drop-in class. Like anyone could show up. You know, if you're busy during the week, for $15 for 90 minutes. We do 8-week classes for about $130, and those are Monday nights, 8 weeks, 8 consecutive weeks. And the next round of those starts May 16th.
Those are coming up.
Yeah. Any questions about yes and or improv or how does it work? Yeah.
Yes and idea is very interesting, but there's times where someone will invite you to do something that crosses kind of right. The yes and idea is very interesting. I like it a lot. There are times, though, when someone will invite you to do something that crosses a moral boundary, a bright red moral boundary, for example. So how do you kind of deal with that? And if you want to implement this idea, but how do you make sure that you don't do something that would break that moral code for yourself?
Right.
So like if you were asked to like go murder somebody. Right. Okay. Well, improv in that exploration, that will get you outside of your comfort zone. And honestly, getting outside your comfort zone is a great thing, but I think there is probably limits, right? There's going to be a limit to like how far you're willing to go. And yeah, if it goes against you, it goes against your morals, and it's not just entertaining a new idea and being like, okay, I'm going to say yes to an idea for a while. Then, yeah. You know yourself, and you know like how far you're willing to go, and what you're willing to compromise.
And I think no matter what you're doing in improv, when you're playing a character, like I've had to play Trump before, but I was playing Laura playing Trump. So if somebody asked me to do something horrible, like behead somebody who's a different race than me or whatever, I can still be Trump, but that's when Laura kind of comes out. That's terrible because of this. And there is such a thing as an offensive idea. I'm not saying all ideas are good. I'm saying there's an opportunity to explore maybe some weirder ideas. If there's something that crosses a boundary, you don't have to say yes. Please don't take that away from this. You can kind of work with it a little bit, though, and let them know, hey, that's my line. I agree that I am Trump and that you are giving me a bad idea, but let's work with something else. Does that kind of answer it?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah, right here.
Let's do this.
So I was curious if your experience with teaching classes and inviting people to classes, if you've seen people's personal lives change, or if they've talked about personal experiences that have changed due to giving themselves the improv classes. Does that make sense?
Yes. So kind of do people's personal lives seek in and you learn a little bit about them that you didn't know before? Yeah. Oh, me for sure. What about you, Foster?
I'm going to have you give your answer, and then I'll give my answer.
Okay, I had a vet in one of my classes recently, and he had a little bit of post-traumatic stress disorder, and that's why he was taking improv, was to kind of just deal with his issues, and I didn't know that going in. So I learned that pretty quick just by giving him notes, and he was one of those people who you want so bad to come out of their shell. Like some of my students who start off with the least ability are the ones I'm rooting for the hardest. Not because I would take credit for their progress, but it would just be so cool to see them just burst through this absolute shell of a person. And it was really cool to see him kind of do things and play, because he was a little bit awkward at first, most of us are, but when he started playing and you could see him have these epiphany moments, it's like one of the most wonderful things in the entire world. I imagine that's what it's like teaching kids how to multiply. I'm a math person, I love it. Like teaching kids and watching it click for them, it's kind of like that for me, a little bit.
Yeah, I could relate. We've taught several classes, and so we have different kinds of people, and people will take, because we're all unique individuals, we could take those experiences and put that into the improv, and the improv could affect us in a positive way. So we have students who are entrepreneurs. We have students, who have blue collar jobs. We have people who are in college. We had a guy who took several classes. He was he was like a nuclear researcher, and a lot of people will be coming to it for different reasons. Whether it's to get better at public speaking, or they are very interested in improv and comedy and performance. Some people just want to be a part of the community because it's a really cool community to be a part of. And so I've seen people come out of their shell, and I've seen people who you would not expect to be good be really amazing. And so I don't know if that answers your question, but I would recommend it taking some kind of class, whether it's an improv class or like an acting class, any kind of class that just gets you out of yourself and lets you see other people. I think is great for just sympathy and empathy in general. I don't know. Does that answer your question? Hopefully. Okay.
I think no but is also a good response to if something is, your approach is something that you may not agree with, like you were talking morally. No, but I will. I know my kids come up and they, oh, will you do this with me? And I'm like, no, but I will do this, or I'll kick the ball, or, something like that. So anyway.
Yeah, no but has a place in real life, and in improv sometimes, for sure. Caveat. I guess.
Going back to kind of like your example, so a no but would be really good if somebody came into a scene and they're like, "Hey, let's be racist." I'd be like, "No, but let's find some kind of compromise, because I don't want to completely deny this idea, but nope, I don't want to do this in front of an audience." So yeah, no but in improv. It's finding that's like kind of like a phrase I would find like a compromise. Right. So I don't know if that would be like progressing, building on something rather than like shifting it laterally, kind of thing.
How the other person feels when you say yes, and
right.
No but is a nicer, I think, way of saying no.
Okay, so Ron's talking about saying no in a nice way, adding like a little bit that might change their idea to make it positive, so you can agree with them. Okay, yeah, no but is important. It doesn't always bring people down, you're right. I think most of the scenes, people aren't normally coming to you and saying, let's be racist or let's be sexist. That's not the majority of the scenes, thank goodness. But yeah, there is a time and place for it, for sure.
I'm talking about using a real life situation, and that's the only reason I was saying that.
Oh, okay. Yeah, for sure, I agree.
One more question. Deadpool, what do you have for us?
Ryan Reynolds.
He ran away. Okay. That's okay.
That makes sense. All right. Well, that's about it, looks like.
Okay. Well, thank you guys so much. We had a great time being here.
Oh. What age class groups do you do?
Currently, we do classes for 17 and up. Right now, we're working on also creating some opportunities for like teen classes, and maybe down the line, maybe school age classes, possibly. I'll be hanging around, grabbing a cup of coffee. If you have a question or anything for me, feel free to come stop by. If you have a question about classes or anything, or just have any comments, I'd be happy to hear them.
All right, thank you guys.
All right, thank you very much.